Welcome into The First Watch. This is a series where we watch and review classic films for the first time. Today we got a big one. This is an all-timer. Casablanca from 1942. This is, I believe, the first film that I've done in this series that actually won Best Picture at the Oscars. So not only is it relevant today, it was also incredibly relevant at the time in which it came out. This is widely considered by many to be one of the 5 to 10, not just most popular, but greatest films that's ever existed. AFI consistently has it in the top 5. I've seen many people have it listed as their favorite movie, and it just never really interested me that much. I don't know. Maybe it was just growing up. If something didn't have, robots or superheroes, I guess I just wasn't interested. But for the sake of the series, I figured I'd go ahead and watch it. And look, the whole thing with this series that I have to acknowledge off the bat is that every film that's ever existed, in some way, shape, or form, is a product of its time. Even if it's just as simple as the effects. Like, a movie that was released in 1975 is going to have much different effects than a movie that comes out in 2025. There's going to be more CG in modern films, probably fewer practical effects. I can accept that. At the same time, I do believe that for a movie to truly be considered a classic or worthy of its classic status, the word timeless has to come to mind. It has to be a movie that you can turn on in 2025 and say, okay, maybe there's elements of it that haven't aged super well, but it holds up. I can go back and watch this at any point. And while, look, okay, there's really nothing I can say about Casablanca that's going to change people's opinions on it. I mean, it's one of the most well-reviewed, talked about movies ever. And I do recommend it as a film that everyone should watch at least once in their lives. But I mean, I'll be honest, this didn't do a ton for me. I'm not saying it's a bad movie, and objectively speaking, even though I claim all the time film is subjective, which it is, it's a well-made film, but it suffers from the problem that I kind of thought it would suffer from, which is, I'm sure when this came out in 1942, this was viewed as revolutionary storytelling. And from a story perspective, structurally, there's nothing wrong with this. I mean, I'm not going to use the word flawless, but it hits all the beats it needs to hit. And I would say that it was probably one of the first films of its kind, and for that reason, it's so well received and admired even to this day. But just because something was first doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best. Like, nobody's calling the Model T Ford the greatest car of all time. And that's kind of how I feel with this, where by 1942 standards, or whatever year this came out, I think it was 42, I'm sure that this was a brilliant piece of art. Watching it in 2025, I see a lot of cliches, and I just gotta start. I know I bring this up a lot, but the movie we're going to be doing next is going to be Raging Bull. And spoiler alert, Raging Bull does not suffer from this problem. But it's that, I don't know, pre-70s acting that takes me out of it, man. It's theater acting, and I'm not even saying that it's bad. It's just compared to the modern day actors who really get lost in their role. The fact that everybody in the film talks like this, and it's that mid-Atlantic kind of drawl. I don't think they're very good performers. Again, good for their time. The one thing I will say that is very positive about this, one, like I said, structurally, there's nothing wrong with this. It is a classic. Like, there is a lot of iconic imagery and iconic lines, and that's one thing I found fascinating is, like, all of the famous scenes and lines that you know of from this movie, even if you haven't seen it, are the best parts of the movie. I found that kind of unique, because, like, we did Jaws, a while back, and I like Jaws quite a bit, but its most famous moment, which is we're gonna need a bigger boat, that's not the best part of that movie, but it's the most famous part of that film. Here, I feel like some of the biggest moments in which you connect are those famous quotes, here's looking at you, kid, and what's the other one, of all the gin joints and all the fucking places she decided to make the most fuckery in here, or whatever that line was. And so, Humphrey Bogart is far and away the best performer in this ensemble. Again, by 25 standards, I think that his character arc is kind of, I'm not going to say eye-roll inducing, but it's just something we've seen a million times. There's even parts in the movie where it's like, I'm not sticking my neck out for anybody. I'm staying true to myself. I'm going to be selfish all the time. And then guess what? By the end of the movie, he has an arc, and I've changed my ways, and now I think this is the start of a beautiful friendship. And I don't want to make it seem like I'm bullying the movie too much, but this is where I really wanted to start this series, because I think it's important to contextualize when movies were released, and also I think that we often, and I'm as guilty of this as anybody, glorify things from the past that were very clearly flawed. I did a recent, top 10 favorite films video, and with most of those movies, I acknowledge the fact that there were flaws in all of them, but personal attachment just kind of prevented me from really using those flaws as knocks against the movie, and that's fine. There are people who saw this at a much different time in their lives and probably appreciated it and view it as, this is absolutely, not just somebody's, it's a lot of people's favorite movie. And for that, hey man, enjoy it, embrace it. I'm sure if you break it down piece by piece, there are many things to appreciate about this. And I would say it is bold to a certain extent in regards to its subject matter. It was obviously a wartime film. I think that its messaging and the time in which it took place was probably something that was really revolutionary at the time. Now, nowadays we get, a World War II movie every other week, so it might not seem that important. But again, putting it into context, at the time, I'm sure that this was viewed as something that was pretty brilliant. So, yeah, I'm giving it a 6 out of 10, and that rating in this series is basically reserved for a movie that I didn't really love or get a certain connection with, but I acknowledge as a film that you absolutely have to watch at least one time in your life. And if you disagree with me, that's fine. Look, I really don't think the perspective of Casablanca is going to change because of Chris Castellani's review. I think people's minds are pretty much made up when it comes to this movie, and that's totally fine. There will be other films on here that I view as classics that I feel like hold up. This one, like I said, for the time in which it was released, I can respect it, and I appreciate the fact, absolutely respect and appreciate the fact that so many filmmakers and so many films have taken influence from Casablanca. And that way, it's absolutely something you could watch, or should watch, because then you can go back and watch future movies and see how many different films took from this. And it does deserve a lot of respect for that. But as a whole, yeah, it's not one of my favorites. All right, that'll do it for this one. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's get those watch hours up. If you like all the content that we put out, that includes movie reviews, you can go to castellanicontent.com. There you will find everything that we put out, from podcasts to post-game videos to interviews, sports, movies, pop culture, all that beautiful stuff. Appreciate y'all continuing to support. See you next week. Peace and happiness.